go ahead and introduce yourself. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm Suvi, and I'm known as Shedfromthebody. I'm a doom metal artist, or something like doom metal, like shoegaze, doomgaze, post doom, something like that. And I'm from Finland, from Espoo, and I'm 23 years old. What else do you want to know?
Well, honestly, like you said, it's hard to pigeonhole the style because I mean, even before the A Dead and Nameless Hum, the record that you just dropped, I mean, such an eclectic project. As sounds from like folk, darkwave, indie, shoegaze, metal, and going back through the catalog of like your Twitter back when you were just doing these covers and when you were doing these acoustic renditions, it was such a massive jump to go to this project that was just these massive mixes of all these sounds. Were you inspired by these different scenes, or did it just come out while writing the music?
Yeah, I specifically wanted to do like doom metal, but like it sort of got spiced up by all of these other things in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it has such a thick mix. Production wise, did you do the production for the record, or was it handled by someone else?
I did everything.
Wow. The instrumentation on it sounds wonderful. The mix is so compressed and it's so dense, and
Yeah.
one thing that I took a liking to the record over a lot of other records in the genre, if you can call it that, that they usually get very campy and they become a bit too much, but I was
Yeah.
really impressed by how equal it was between the heavy and the soft sections, where you could just so easily slide between these very ethereal passages that had like chilling vocals, and then you had these really heavy, like thick type of mixes where the instrumentation would just overpower everything else. And I was just
Yeah.
wondering, was it difficult to find a middle ground and a balance from track to track, or did you always have a kind of idea of how you wanted a track to sound?
Yeah, I guess I have a sort of a every time I work on a track, I have a vision for it. Like I know how I want it to sound in my head. But it's difficult to get it to sound like that, especially with the limited amount of experience that I have. It's always like a journey. Each track, like I build the guitar tones from scratch, and I never like reuse any of the settings because my workflow is like mostly digital. So I record everything straight to like the computer, and every like guitar sound is like through an amp emulator. So I rebuild that like emulation for each separate track just to make sure that it's the sound that I'm going for.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, like with how you do all of it digitally, it's the whole record has like this sort of faint echo and reverb to it that gives it this very shoegaze sheen to it that kind of tops off even the heavier instrumentation to make it sound very faint and echoey and just almost like drifting. And was that reflective in any way of what you wanted to do lyrically for the project, or did the lyrics or the instrumentals come first? I mean, was there a story to be told before anything was made?
Well, I'm definitely more of an aesthetic person than like a poetic person. I mean, I do try to make my lyrics sound like fitting to the music, but definitely the music comes first. So I have this aesthetic in my head, and the lyrics sort of they grow to complement that aesthetic, like that audio.
Well, that's funny that you talked about the aesthetic, because I think imagery is such a big thing with this type of music, and you've really embraced the
Yeah.
different types of makeup and outfits. Like the music videos are very dark and experimental and very all over the place and just odd. Now, were the music videos something, when you say that you had an aesthetic in mind, were the music videos already known in your head, or did those come after the whole process, or did you always have an idea of that?
Well, I guess I get the music video into my head as I make the song. I get the visuals because it's a sort of every song is like an aesthetic whole. Like it's an entirety, and I get the visuals as I work on the music because I come from a background of visual art. I still like do visual art for a living, so it's very natural for me to sort of like interpret those sounds as images.
Well, yeah. For I mean, when you like look at a lot of writers, they say that they're very inspired by music and paintings, and it's so interesting how art influences other types of art, and imagery is such, I mean, do you believe that imagery in general has a very big, it's a big part of this whole project, and do you
Yeah.
always plan on it being a very large part of Shed from the Body going forward?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like probably the most important part, I think, is the imagery of the music, you know?
Yeah, painting a picture, a bigger picture that people can perceive about the project, because it's so much
Yeah.
easier when you have a really powerful piece of music to go along with an image in your head, either through interpretation or a music video that jumps out pretty much from the page, for lack of a better word, and really gives you this image of what the music is supposed to entail. Now, the one thing that I thought was really interesting is a lot of the scenes that you could say you're a part of do have a lot of roots from the area that you come from in the world. And I was just curious, does the Finnish scene have any sort of impact on the sound? I mean, are there Finnish artists that
Definitely.
had an idea?
Yeah. There's definitely like uh this one really old school Finnish like prog rock, punk rock, folk rock, like rock, any rock,
Just rock rock?
any rock band called CMX. And my older brother is a big fan of them, and he introduced me to them. And I think there's a big like even if I don't really sound like them, there's a like a vibe that I wanna sort of emulate from them.
Yeah, it all starts from an idea, that influence. Even if it's not apparent, it's a subconscious thing that drives you to,
Yeah,
be
and
influenced.
definitely all kinds of like older like better known Finnish bands, like I don't know, that like stuff I used to listen to when I was a little kid that I don't necessarily like anymore, but like him and stuff that
It
I
just left
grew
an
up listening
impact
to.
on you. You can't help it, but it stick out in your mind to some
Yeah,
degree.
yeah, like all the melodies and the Finnish melancholy stuff. It's definitely audible from the melodies that I instinctively like create that Finnishness.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I honestly brought it up, because when I was listening to it, I was like, I have definitely heard Finnish bands that are very chill, psychedelic, dreamy, and I feel even if it's something subtly, like in a way a riff is played, in a way a production style is used, it comes through just very subtly, very vaguely. There's just this little hint of something from the scene that you come from, and I think that is a really cool thing. And I guess one thing that I have to ask is, what are the future plans for the project? Do you plan on staying in this lane of what you're currently doing, or do you have bigger ideas that you want to explore?
Well, I guess I just want to sort of evolve as a musician, like I'm still fresh. I still don't know shit about anything. So
Yeah,
so
it takes time, takes practice.
yeah, so I want to grow better as a guitarist and a drummer and whatever, and a vocalist, and I want that to be audible in my music, and I want that to influence my stuff that I make.
For
So
sure.
now it's just like skill based goals, and of course I want to go, I'm a goth through and through, so I want to make my stuff darker and more intense,
Have
and
a
you
have
know
some sort of macabre atmosphere to the whole thing.
yeah, but I have this like issue every time I try to make dark stuff. It also ends up being kind of nice and kind of pretty and soft and friendly. And I think that's a good idea. That I mean, a good thing too. But it's not always what I want to go for. But it's just sort of, I always end up sounding very nice. Maybe it's my voice.
Yeah, it always ends up, ending up that way, but who knows what you're going to be able to do as you explore those things. I mean, would you
Yeah.
want to work with other instrumentalists? Would you want to work with other producers to flesh out a project even more besides yourself, or do you always plan on having it be a solo project?
Well, I'm not opposed to the idea, but I'm sort of a control freak when it comes to my own. I have like a vision,
Yeah, it has to end up that
and
way.
that
Can't deviate.
yeah, I don't want other people to potentially fuck up what I have in mind. And I mean, no disrespect to any other
Yeah, we
artist.
all have our own ideas of what we want an end project to sound like, and anything
Yeah,
but that is, different than the initial vision.
yeah, but definitely, I do sometimes wish I had like people to make music with, because everything has to come out of my own brain, and it's sort of sometimes the sound ends up, I mean, the songs do end up being sort of samey in a way, because I have no other person to draw inspiration from, and that's a problem for me sometimes. So I end up scrapping quite a lot of ideas because they're just like, I've done this before, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. Well, are you
So
currently working on another project, despite it being soon? Do you have an idea?
yeah, started I started working on new stuff as soon as A Dead and Aimless Hum came out, because I was like, I need to know that I can do this again.
That it's not
So
a
I
one-off.
just, yeah, that is not a one-off. So I made a new track, and I was like, I can do this again. This is good. So I'm just gonna make some more stuff until I have a new album, and then we're good to go.
Well, any closing thoughts? I just wanted to thank you so much for being here and talking. It was a great time. Any final words? Makes it sound like an execution.
Any last words?
Any last words, Matthew?
Well, thank you for the interview. I guess I have nothing like. Then thank you to everyone who listened to the album. I'm not used to the attention. I'm just used to sort of throwing my stuff out into the void and not getting any response. And now I'm like, people are actually listening to my album. Okay.
Well deserved. It's always a very surreal feeling to be like, wait, someone out there is hearing this thing that I put this time and effort into. It's always very weird. It will never not be weird. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it a ton. All of the links will be in the description box below to be able to stream the record, go and support it, give some love to it. I definitely think it deserves it, and all of that good stuff. I will talk to you guys later, but until then, I'm signing off saying farewell.